Alright guys, we finally got Laker basketball again. They're back on the court, the first NBA game back on the court since the All-Star break, with the Lakers making up their game against the Charlotte Hornets, and with it will come two big questions. One of which being directly from their matchup and on their injury report, that having to do with LeBron James, then the other one continuing to be with their roster. What they'll do with it, even though they have a currently filled 15-man roster, they're widely expected to waive one, or maybe even two players from it, then sign guys off the free agent market, off their own roster being two-way contracts, or maybe a guy that we don't really expect them to sign. And with that being said, we're going to talk about it and break it all down. But before we get too far into it, let's quickly go over our game day picks with Underdog Fantasy. And if you're a new sign-up, you can pick Luka Doncic to have higher than 0.5 points in their game tonight. Or if you want to follow along with me, here's what I got going for tonight's slate. For pick number 1, if you're not a new sign-up, I got Luka Doncic having higher than 7.5 assists. I think LeBron will likely be out, and that will mean Luka being their de facto point guard. Then for pick number 2, I got Jackson Hayes having higher than 8.5 points. We've seen the connection between him and Luka, and I think they'll continue again tonight, with plenty of alley-oops. Then for pick number 3, I got Rui Hachimura making more than 1.5 3-point shots. He's made that in 5 straight games now, so I think he will again tonight. Then for my fourth and final pick, I got Nick Smith Jr. having higher than 2.5 assists. And I'm going to go with a flex play here, meaning I only have to get 3 out of the 4 right and I still win. So if you want to follow along with me, or make your own picks, then be sure to check out Underdog Fantasy, and don't forget to use code JSM to get your free pick, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make a deposit. But now getting back to our topic, and again, with the LeBron injury, kind of up in the air right now. By the time I get this video out, he might be rolled out or available to play, who knows, but there definitely is something going on with him. He missed the All-Star game and now is a big questionable to play in this game tonight, and their next game after that, and maybe for the rest of the week as well. I mean, I think it's simply them being smart with him. They don't want to aggravate or cause a new injury that he doesn't have, obviously that wouldn't be good, and with the foot injury being a lingering thing for him, kind of off and on for the past couple of years now, they don't want to aggravate that and get him as much rest as possible, both from the All-Star break and maybe up into this week, to get him fresh for a playoff run. And well, then with Shams Charania kind of confirming it, at least heavily implying it and hinting at it, with them trying to rest him, playing against quote-unquote lesser opponents this week and trying to take advantage of that, I think that is what they're trying to do here. And here's quickly what Shams had to say about it.
I'm told that LeBron James will be reevaluated later today, and there is optimism that he can be able to play in at least one of the next 2 games, against Charlotte at home on Wednesday or Thursday in Portland. But what the Lakers are weighing here is, on one hand, the importance of the Luka Doncic-LeBron James chemistry and what that will signify for the second half of the NBA season, but also the other side of it is weighing potentially sitting LeBron James against these 2 lesser opponents in Charlotte and Portland. And as opposed to him playing, they could be looking at 9 days of total rest between last Wednesday's game in Utah and Saturday night's game against the Denver Nuggets.
Like I said, probably nothing to worry about here, with Shams implying that, and then of course with their opponents, Charlotte not playing too well and not being a great team this season, Portland actually playing really well lately, and that's something to watch out for. But then with them not having Luka Doncic on a minute restriction anymore, or at least according to reports, probably wanting to get him more of a feel within their offense and playing a little bit more without LeBron James, and then of course simply getting LeBron more rest. I think that's all it is here. And with that in mind here, now moving on to their next concern and what they should do with their 15-man roster. Should they waive somebody? Should they keep it the same, or what should they do with it? Believe it or not, they actually have the ability to waive 2 players and then replace them if they want to. Now they would have to go about it a little bit strategically. They couldn't sign 2 10-year plus veteran players that would make the maximum prorated veteran minimum salary at this point, but they could sign 1 veteran minimum guy, a 10-year veteran, and then a current 2-way player like a Jordan Goodwin or a Christian Koloko. They could go that route, or they could instead waive somebody right now, then sign a 10-day contract player, and still sign a different player after that by waiving somebody else. So obviously they have plenty of options here and many different routes they could take, and up until this point, they have taken none of them. Not that I entirely blame them, they're probably waiting for the buyout market, and if anything ever does happen with it, so far it's been pretty dry, the only real notable signing being Ben Simmons, and if you want to count him as a notable signing, definitely a shell of his former self, but he did sign with the LA Clippers. Maybe the Lakers are waiting for a player like that, somebody they can sign that made under $12.9 million, as they are limited to that, or simply a better option than what's currently on the open market, as right now there's not much out there. If we're talking about centers, and I know a lot of you want to talk about them and maybe sign one, the only real notable name out there, and if you want to call it that, would happen to be former Laker Mo Bamba, and with them having plenty of opportunity to sign him, and they still haven't done it, I'd say they probably don't want to and are not really planning to. But then a different option might be a guy like Bismack Biyombo. I've seen a little bit of chatter about that. Lately he got picked up by San Antonio on a 10-day contract, but up until this point, they have not signed him to a new 10-day contract. If you're not aware, you can sign a player to not only one 10-day contract, but actually two of them. And with Bismack Biyombo, the Spurs have yet to do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going completely out of my way to sign 32-year-old Bismack Biyombo. Yes, he might be a notable name from a well-known standpoint, has been in the league for about 10 to 12 years at this point, so yeah, obviously we know him, we know the name, and he might be able to help them, but definitely not a guarantee at this point. Not the guy that he once was, not the productive, very active rebounder and rim protector, still a decent rebounder and rim protector, but definitely not a guarantee to be much better than what they have, or even better than anyone they do currently have at center. I'm definitely not opposed to it for a 10-day contract, but I'm definitely not signing him to a standard contract. I gotta see what he looks more like and how he looks in their system, in their defensive scheme, and how he would play within it. And maybe with a 10-day contract, I would be open to that, but definitely not signing him to a standard contract or waiving somebody just to sign Bismack Biyombo. If not for Bismack Biyombo though, maybe taking a chance on a lesser known player, a G League player, and one of my favorite options for that with a 10-day contract could be a guy like Jamarian Sharp. I've talked about him before, and for good reason too, showing plenty of talent and plenty of rim protection and lob threat ability in the G League, currently averaging about 7 points per game, but then with 3.2 blocks per game, top 5 in the G League at this point, in only about 25 minutes per game, or per 36-minute average, nearly 5 blocks per game. And yes, we're obviously talking about the G League here, that won't completely transfer to the NBA, but definitely does have plenty of rim protection ability, plenty of lob threat ability, is 7'5", fans like to hear that and really like to factor in the height here, with a very good wingspan and plenty of height and length to go with him, to go with that rim protection and lob threat ability. Might be a fun option, hasn't gotten an opportunity yet in the NBA, so who knows, it might go great, it might go terrible, but for only a 10-day contract there's really not much downside here, so I would take a look at Jamarian Sharp. After him though, definitely think about a guy like Stanley Johnson for example, another guy brought up and definitely a good option for a 10-day contract. I mean, he's a guy that's played for their team, has been proven to work with a guy like LeBron James and Austin Reeves. Whether you're talking about a small ball lineup with him playing the 4 or 5, yes, he has shown the ability to do it and fairly well at times too, or with him playing small forward, even shooting guard at times, primarily on defense and taking on that matchup, can truly match up 1 through 4 and sometimes 1 through 5, so plenty of like with him. Then with improved 3-point shooting lately, whether you're talking about his last NBA stint with San Antonio, shooting 45% from beyond the arc, albeit in a limited volume and in a limited amount of games. But then in the G League, currently shooting very well with their G League team, about 46%, or during international play in the Turkish League, shot about 45% again, so showing improvement. Will that translate to the NBA or not, who knows, but has been showing 3-point shooting improvement lately. We know about the defense, he's been with their team, a part of their franchise before, so definitely would give some consideration to Stanley Johnson, whether it be for a 10-day contract to start out with, or eventually for their 15-man roster. And whether you like or don't like the options I gave here, again, it's only for a 10-day contract. They're not guaranteed to stick with their team. They can evaluate them for that 10-day contract span, maybe give them another 10-day contract after that, but not a guarantee to stick with their 15-man roster. They could, and they could also sign that player, then sign an additional player after that if they go about it the right way. And for that second player, I'm definitely leaning toward a guy like Jordan Goodwin or Christian Koloko, with more of a lean toward Jordan Goodwin here. Has definitely played well for their team, is a good backcourt defender for their team, all around a great energy guy for their team, and simply from the fact that he's been in the rotation from the start after being elevated to a 2-way contract and immediately entering the rotation after that, I think it's been heavily implied and hinted at that he will be elevated to their 15-man roster, with it only being a matter of time here. Again, I'd like Christian Koloko, but after they signed Alex Len and kind of committed to him in their center rotation, they really don't have room for Christian Koloko and probably won't go that route. Wouldn't be entirely opposed to it, especially if you'd outplay Alex Len for the next 10 to 20 days here, but probably not going that route. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the Lakers' current 15-man roster? Would you waive somebody? Would you waive 2 players? Who do you replace with them, and how do you go about changing up their 15-man roster, if you would at all? Then how do you feel about the LeBron situation? Do you think it's anything worth taking note of? Is it simply rest, or what are they trying to do with him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.